Hello, welcome to my channel once again, and this is Style with Ufoma Omoluru. So what I want to show you today is how to cut a tiered sleeve. So it's going to be a 3-step tiered sleeve. So when we say tier, what we mean is layers. So sometimes you can make your layered sleeve with a fitted top, and as it goes to the bottom you can have your layers or your tier. So this is going to be a flare tier. You can have a ruched tier, but this is going to be a flare. Now your flare tier can be 360 flare. It can also be 180 flare. So the flare depends on how full you want it to be. And bear in mind the kind of fabric you use in making your 3-layer tiered sleeve is very important. So if it's going to be a stiff fabric, like you have the scuba material, you know that the scuba material normally is stiff and is thick. So if you make it 360, it'll be very full, and it's going to, you can imagine the effect. So for scuba, if you don't want it that full, you need to use 180 flare in cutting your tier or your 3-tiered sleeve. So I'm going to be using a paper pattern to cut a 3-tier flare sleeve. So in the picture, what you have is a 360 flare, but what I'm going to be cutting is a 180 flare. So for this particular project, you would need the following measurements. You need your round sleeve and you need your sleeve length. These two measurements are very important to get it right. So I'm going to be working with a size 10 measurement for the 3-tier flat sleeve. So a size 10, you have 12 inches for the round sleeve. So what you want to do first is to get your measurement for the round sleeve. So I have here folded the paper. So you can cut directly on your fabric, or you can go straight and draft your 3-tier flat sleeve on a piece of paper. So now the length, when you're determining the length of your sleeve, when you're going to cut, don't forget you need to first cut the normal sleeve like I'm going to do. Then you're going to add the flare to the bottom. So the sleeve length I want to use is 15. So if I'm going to be needing a 15 sleeve length for my sleeve, I'm not going to cut on the plain sleeve 15. I'm going to make it short, because then we're going to insert the flare into this straight sleeve. So you cut like a shirt sleeve first, then you complete that with the flare and you insert the flares inside the sleeve. It's really simple. It sounds complicated from the beginning, but if you watch this video to the end, you will get what I am trying to do. So I'm going to start cutting, but before then, don't forget, for you to keep seeing my videos as they drop, you need to subscribe and then also turn on the notification bell. So the notification bell is the bell-like symbol under this video. So you just click on that, and what that does for you is that each time I post a video, you are alerted. Right, so now I'm going to start cutting. So I'm going to cut the flare, 3 different flares. Now the last flare I'm going to attach to the bottom of the sleeve. So if I want a 15 inches flare, that means I need to divide this shirt sleeve by into 2. I'm going to complete the length with the flare. So the flare I'm going to be using is 6 inches. So for this bit then, if I want it to be 15 inches, and I'm going to be adding 6 inches, so that means I need 9 inches for the shirt sleeve. But if you want it shorter, by all means, you need to do the same. So I'm going to cut 9 inches here, right? Or you can do it, if you don't want it that long, let's do 7 inches, because the length of the shirt sleeve is also dependent on how wide you want the flare to be. Because you won't want a situation where when you place the flare, then you are seeing inside. You're seeing the shirt sleeve. So that's why I'm deciding to use 7 inches for the length. Okay, so when I add the flare, it's going to be 7 plus 6, 13. And don't forget, you need to add the folding allowance as well. So the folding allowance is going to be added to the flare. Yeah, so this, I'm going to move the bottom away so you can see this properly. So this is the shirt sleeve we want to start cutting first. So the round sleeve, you remember, is 6 inches, right? So there. Then you're going to make your curve. If you don't know how to cut a shirt sleeve, I have a video on how to cut a perfect shirt sleeve, right? So this is the curve for your sleeve, right? And this is the measurement for your sleeve with the allowance. So I'm going to cut this off. I've taken that off. So what you see here now is the sleeve. This is what is going to serve as our sleeve. So now we need to divide this into 2. So we have 7 here. So I'm going to divide this into 2. So the first bit, because we're going to lose half there, so I'm going to do 4 inches at this point. So 4 inches, get my ruler, and I'm just going to roll that like so. Yeah. So once I do this, the first flare is going to go round there, the second flare is going to be in here, and the last flare is going to be there. So by the time you place the first flare like that, the second flare like this, and the third like that, you're going to get your tiered sleeve. So this is the base for attaching your sleeves. But if the kind of tiered sleeve you want is the one that is fitted on top and later at the bottom, it's the same process. You need to cut this first, then you cut another band which you will divide to place the sleeves inside. But this particular type I'm cutting is the tiered sleeve that just comes from the shoulder. So I'm going to put this aside, and now we're going to cut the flare. So like I mentioned, you can decide to cut a 360 flare for your tiered sleeve or a 180 flare. So I want to do a 180 flare. So now this is my paper pattern, and I'm going to fold. So if you've watched my video on how to cut the perfect flare, you will see I showed you how to cut the different types of flare. The 180 degree flare, the 360 degree flare, and the 720 degree flare, as well as the 1440 degree flare. So now I'm cutting the 180 flare, which is the semi flare. So in that case, I don't need to fold into a square. I'll just do like a triangle fold, like so, right? So once I do this, now from the pointed edge, I'm going to measure 6 inches, moving my tape 6 inches, moving the tape 6 inches. So as I move, the point there is static. So yeah, so that's my flare. Now I'm going to measure from here as well the flare, the length of the flare. So I'm doing 6 plus half an inch for the sewing allowance or for the folding. It depends on you. You can add 1 extra, but this is just for the purpose of illustration. Right, so that's my flare. Now if you are plus size, or if your round sleeve is much bigger, so you want to make this bit, from this bit, this pointed edge to where you call the circumference of your flare, you want to make it deeper. So instead of doing 6, you may want to do 8 or 7 accordingly. So the bigger your sleeve, the deeper, the wider your circumference should be. Yeah, so I'm just going to cut that. Yeah, so I'm going to put this aside. So that's my flare. That is the 180 flare. So I've already cut some here. So I'm going to use this. So I have 3 flare, the same size. So it's very important that your flare are all the same sizes, like you can see. So if we measure from this bit to this bit, we want to make sure from this bit to this bit is up to your round sleeve. So what I have here is about 6, right, for that bit. So what we want to do, if you want this to become longer, all you need to do is to bring this down a little more. So what I'll do in that case, you just bring like the first bit, you know, is not going to be straight. If we get the sleeve, if we put it here, this is the sleeve, this is the flare. You can't do that, it's not enough. So we have to make sure that this bit is slanted like so. So the first flare we're going to slant so it can go into the sleeve. So I'm just going to slant that like so, and I'm going to get my sleeve, and you're going to try to fit this into the sleeve. So if you still need to do more, by all means bring that lower like that. Yeah. So for the first flare, you can see that is what I have done. So that goes into it. So from here, that way it goes in. That's fine. Now for the second flare, we're going to add this way. So you're going to put that in there. So for this bit as well, you can take just a little bit out there to make sure it goes in like I'm doing, and open. You're going to have to open this up. Yeah, so I've opened that up. So I'm going to put this in the middle, so like so, right? You get this and you're going to place this on top. So you have the flare, the second flare in between the sleeves, right? So you get a pin. I'm going to get my pins, and we're just going to pin that together. So if you are stitching, you just take that to your sewing machine and make sure that you have the flare in between the two straight pieces. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm having that in between the two straight pieces. So you hold them together 1/2 inch. So don't forget, when you're cutting your straight pieces, make provision for extra length because of your sewing allowance. So my sewing, I would advise that you leave in total about 2 inches or 2.5 inches for the sewing allowance, because you're going to lose one in the middle, you're going to lose one on top, then another 1/2 inch before the last one. Okay, so yeah, so I've done that. Now I'm going to get the first one. This is the first flare. So you just pin that on top. You don't need to pin that otherwise. So just on top, like so. You stitch the first flare to the sleeve, top of the sleeve, like that. So I'm just pinning for the purpose of illustration. So it's better to cut, it makes your flare wider, the circumference of your flare wider. You can always trim than to make it too small, and at the end of the day, you see it doesn't go round, right? So we have the first flare, we have the second flare. Now for the third flare, I'm just going to get the last flare, and I'm going to just add that to this bit, right? So make sure your flare is even wider than mine, because in that case, whatever excess you can cut off instead of you to be struggling for fabric. Like, oh, the flare is not enough, I need to add more. And if you need to make it wider, you may need to trim. So if you trim, what you do is you lose the length. So by all means, instead of 6, you can do 8 for the depth of your flare. So the longer, the better. Yeah, so that's the 3-tiered flare, like you can see. So now once you've done that, what you want to do is to close the sides. So this is what you're going to have inside, right? So you close the sides and you have your tiered, 3-tiered flare sleeve. So like I said earlier, if you want it fuller, do a 360-degree flare. But if you want it curtailed like this, then you need to do 180-degree flip. So if you're using a scuba, you don't need to fold. So you can go with the exact fabric plus the side exact length plus maybe 1.5 inches extra for the joining. But if you're using a fabric that you need to fold, then you need to add at least 3 inches extra, because you're going to lose some of those length when you join and when you fold. So yeah, that is my tip on cutting a 3-tiered sleeve, flat sleeve, like you see in the picture. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me. And if you've liked the video, give me a thumbs up, and stay tuned till I come your way next week with yet another easy tip on how to perfect your sewing.